All right, guys. I'm live in Peshtigo, Wisconsin. This is the site of one of the most historical fires in the history of America. There was literally, it was October the 8th, 1871, when the great, that's the same day of the great Chicago fire. And so Chicago, even though it was 3 hour drive south of where I'm at, was in flames. This little town, little sleepy town of 3,500 people, encountered the most historical fire in history, where 2,500 people died this day on October 8th, 1871. And I'm right now at the Peshtigo Historical Society Museum. Actually, the cemetery behind me here, some of the people that were buried from the fire have been to rest here. And I think the flames here behind me says it all. This entire town is historically known for this incredible fire. It was a very dry time in America. Extremely dry. The driest season it ever had here. The worst time ever for a fire. And when the fire began raging in this direction, it consumed unbelievable amounts of acreage. Now, this town sits in between two peninsulas of water, I should say, bays of water. So you're way up here in northern Michigan. Northern Wisconsin. You're not that far actually from Canada. And this fire breaks out. There's a priest by the name of Reverend Peter Perrin, and he actually wrote an account of what happened. He wrote a dramatic account in 1871 of the fire. He hoped that the book would help raise money to rebuild the town, because the entire town was consumed. Okay. He also knew that, being a Catholic priest, he also knew that he didn't want the Eucharist to be destroyed in the fire. So he ran into the church and got the Eucharist from the church in a wooden tabernacle, and grabbed a wagon, put it on a wagon, and he began making his way to the water to get away from the fire. When he got to the water's edge, there was hundreds of people on the edge of the water with the fire burning behind them, and they thought it was the end of the world. And maybe it was. For a lot of them, it was. You can see downtown, it's a nice little quiet place. Heidi and I knew about this story a long time ago, and we've talked about someday we would come here just to get a feel for what happened here. Unfortunately, the museum was closed today due to COVID, so I finally make my way here. But this is okay, because I was visiting some friends not far from here, so we thought we'd swing by. Let's go over here. Obviously, this old church has been converted into the museum, which I think is kind of cool, really. A little bit about the story. I find it fascinating, really. Reverend Peter Perrin went ahead and put the Eucharist on the wagon, and he went to the water's edge. The banks of the river, as far as an eye could see, was covered with people standing there, motionless like statues. Some of their eyes were staring upward toward the heavens, and they truly thought this was the end of the world. The apocalypse, in their mind, had come. But the priest told him he doubted it was the end of the world. He said, I think this could be the end of the world for us. But he said, I doubt this is the end of time. He finally jumped into the river because it was so hot. When he jumped in, hundreds of people started jumping in, and they had to stay in the river. The fire consumed both sides of the river, burning everything. Cattle started jumping in. Horses jumped in. People jumped in, whether they could swim or not. Because you either jumped in the river or you're going to be burnt alive. Actually, he said that once he was in the water and they were up to their necks, their hair was catching on fire. They had to keep dumping themselves in. They kept throwing water on their heads. to keep their heads cool, because the heat was so intense that it would literally, you would just burst into flames if you didn't do it. People drowned there, children died, the elderly. And after 5.5 hours of being in the water, and the fire started to slowly subside, the priest was able to get out. He saved the Eucharist, but he also saved hundreds of lives, because he helped people get out of the water. He gave them the inspiration, and he led them to the water's edge to escape the unquenchable fire. You know, I think a lot about that is, when you read the story about it, it's quite a fascinating story. And then they had to rebuild this town, and they did. And some of the proceeds from his book he wrote helped pay for it. I think a lot about that. When you think about living somewhere where it's always been sleepy and quiet and nobody bothers nobody and everybody works together, and then all of a sudden in one day it becomes an inferno, an unquenchable fire. Was it the judgment of God? Or was it just being in the wrong place at the wrong time? Was it prophetically a look into what's coming? Because the Bible does say, and this is why the people might have thought it was the end of time, the Bible does say in 2 Peter 3 that the world is going to melt with fervent heat. The world is going to melt. The world's going to melt with a fervent heat. Even the air will be on fire. The elements will burn up. So that's a question. It really is a question. Was this just a precursor to what the world's going to experience when it's all said and done? See the flames on the church there, just above the museum? So we thought we'd come here, check out this little town, the place of the unbelievable fire of October the 8th, 1871. There's a restaurant not far from here called Embers. And there's, I'm sure, more businesses in the town here with references to the fire, to the flames, in this historical small town in the United States, where maybe God did many miracles here. Many people were saved in the water. Only one sad story, the priest said, a woman who was holding a child and wrapped in a blanket was her baby in the water. When he pulled her out of the water and the child, she unwrapped the blanket to get to her baby. The baby wasn't there. The horror, he said, on her face was so bad that she literally was stunned. Where was her baby? He seen the distraught look on her face was so horrible that her life was about to drain out of her body, that he told her, he said, wait a minute. He said, I think somebody said they found a baby. I think somebody might have said they found a baby. Just relax a minute, let's see. But it didn't faze her. She just walked straight and fell into the river and died. Hope everybody's doing great out there. When you read the account of this great story, I think if you live somewhere and everything is peaceful and everything seems to be fine, be thankful. Be thankful, because you never know what any day or what hour the apocalypse, the end time apocalypse could come. Give your life to Jesus Christ. We're running out of time. God bless all you guys. Wanted to share this with you. here from Peshtigo, Wisconsin. God bless.